Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a valuation expert witness in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the pleasure of discussing pink collar crime, fraud, and embezzlement with Kelly Paxton, who is a private investigator and certified fraud examiner in Portland, Oregon, or I just learned, Bend, Oregon. It's kind of like it's easier to steal from a jerk than if you like the place that you work. But even then, even if you like the place, you've been longest employee, because I did a lot of government fraud or schools and things like that. It was always a city manager that was like this upstanding citizen, would never hurt, harm, or do anything, but either falls on hard times, has a bad habit, something starts happening, and they start taking it little by little, right? Because we're always going to pay it back. We're just going to take a little bit. I mean, like, I just need to pay my mortgage so I don't lose my house. So I'm going to just take like $1,000 or maybe $1,500. But next, when I get paid, I'm going to pay it back. I'm going to put it back in there and no one's even going to know. And that's what kind of starts the cycle of, so it's not like these people sit back and they scheme like, how am I going to take 500,000 from this person? It could start as $50. It could start as $100, but the payback never happens. And you gave a good example on your blog, I think, that you were talking about how somebody got found out because they had to have a surgery and they had to take time off. Those are the internal controls. Put in cameras, mandatory vacation so that you can figure things out. But the rationalization is that if in some people's mind, if you have more than me, then you're not going to miss it. And if this guy continues to talk like, oh, you're too stupid to steal, you're like, haha, I guess you don't care. I guess you don't, you're not noticing or something like that. So I think that's a really interesting area.
I have a woman who stole, the first time it was $10. She worked for a school district in Wisconsin and she was not even making $11. And when she was sentenced, I believe she got 3 years. She had stolen $350,000 and she said, quote, it was $10 the first time. No one noticed. There's a guy who was a superintendent, Frank Tassone, of the Roslyn, Long Island School District in New York. And it was one of the highest performing public school districts in the country. And the case is kind of old, but they made a movie on HBO called Bad Education, and I would recommend watching it. They did a really good job. But he was interviewed on a podcast because he's out. He's, and unfortunately for the state of New York taxpayers, he's still getting $170,000 a year in pension. He's paid back his restitution, which is unusual. But he said that it started with 2 Greek salads and 2 sodas. And he showed up Monday and no one noticed. He ended up stealing over $2 million.
Wow.
So literally 2 Greek salads and 2 sodas and no one noticed. And not so many times. And to go to the rationalization, another part of it is I can show you an astronaut, a rocket scientist, a neurosurgeon. Mark Cuban, he was ripped off. It doesn't matter how smart you are or where you are on the org chart and they're down here. It's all about the opportunity and the access. So Mark Cuban was embezzled. He had $84,000 in the bank. He had just graduated from the MBA program at, I believe, Indiana University. He thought he did everything right. He wrote the checks out. He signed them. He handed them to his assistant, Renee, and he said, put them in the envelopes and, mail them. Well, Renee was nice enough to leave him $2,000, but she took white out and she just covered the name of the vendor to pay to the order of. And he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him because he said it would never happen again. Mm-hmm. And, so embezzlement's never a great thing to happen, but I can show you examples where like it happened kind of small and it didn't happen to him again, because once it happens to you, generally speaking, it's not going to happen to you again, with the exception of dentists. I've had several dentists who it's happened to them several times.